I was hanging out with two of my friends. It was about 16 years ago. And the mom of one of the friends was there, and we were all, drinking and eating espalana. And we'd done this, several times. And this one particular day, we must have been talking about people. I don't know what the conversation was, but it must have been talking about people and about our work. We were working for First to Work at that time. I was super over and says to me just so sweetly and so gently and just like so filled with love, which made it worse. Over, she says, "Joey, you could stand to be a little kinder." And I know that immediately at that moment, like I'm trying to keep this smile because, I'm trying to save face, but in my mind, I'm bringing up all of all the evidence to prove that she's wrong, right? I work in nonprofit, for God's sakes, in First to Work, helping people get off of welfare, for God's sakes. I work with alternative, like kids in alternative youth programs. I single-handedly raised 3 kids. I could feel myself diving into the spiral of like proving her wrong. Like there's no way that she could be wrong. But sometimes, like the only way that you can see that it's your fault is when somebody is this kind and so gentle. Because if she said this in an asshole-ish way, I could have had enough things to fight about her attitude and the way she said it. So often we say it's not what you say, it's the how you say it. And we can get lost in like conflict in our lives. But her approach made me stop and look for a second. So this is 16 years ago, as I've said. And I had already had decades under me where I was teaching mindfulness. And so much of mindfulness is about kindness and compassion. So I had this idea of myself. And so many of us people who are in the business of helping others and in the business of service, I think can identify with me here. When I can mistake the mission statement that I wear, I can mistake that for, it's not really living it, is it? And I could feel the conflict in that moment. Thought of myself as a person that was kinder than I actually was. I thought of myself as having my shit together a little bit more than I actually did. Was living very chaotic, the way that I was talking about people and the way that I was blaming others and letting myself off the hook for my poor behavior, my parts in the downfall of my marriage and other relationships, the friction that I had with my kids while I try to smile every day and teach these things. That was like a lot of conflict I was walking around with. And in that moment, she cracked open all of that. And so I'm here to talk to you about mindful forgiveness. And if you want to consider being a facilitator, it's really about that. It's about, are you willing to see yourself differently? And then what? And then can you let go of the stories that have helped you feel strong, that have helped you keep it together? That serves as kind of a barrier when you feel disconnected from the people that you serve. And you don't really know why your relationship with your adult kids or your cousins or your neighbor, why there's so much friction, and you have to keep smiling and keep it all together. That's what so much of nonprofit work felt like to me. When I looked at my coworkers and I looked at all my grant partners. And so I sought after this funding to do this thing. Because I kept going to Merton at every IVAT conference. And I was like, Merton, I think I can offer something here, because we're all out here trying to serve these big missions, and yet our personal lives feel chaotic. And so there's that disconnect. And I was like, Merton, I think we can do something about this. So this is how we eventually worked with Dr. Fred Luskin and Dr. Tao and some, just amazing people to really learn this work of forgiveness and letting go and what it means. But it's not a quick fix. I've been at this for 16 years and I barely know what I'm doing. And yet I know so much compared to that ding dong 16 years ago. I have so much more compassion for her now. I was so hard on myself back then. and that tightness made me feel tight against others. And so I'm not going to ask for 16 years of your life, but I am going to be asking for 6 months with some consistency and honesty and the ability to reflect. Yeah, notice your own patterns and where you could stand to be a little bit more kinder, where you use value as a cloak, and it actually feels like a knife to your heart at night. So you have to distract yourself with TV or food or maybe drugs or so many other things that we use to distract ourselves from actually looking at our lives. And this process of mindful forgiveness is asking for authentic responsibility. And so that's not easy. And so it's best done with others. For me, like the benefits have been repair with my kids and ability to cut things off with people that don't serve my life. Yeah. Like, so much energy saved by not having to pretend. But that process of getting there was hard. Like losing people is hard. The work is hard. And so doing it with others is helpful. And so that's what we're offering here. Can we spend like a big chunk of that 6 months really supporting you and each other and us around our own work of excavating and then rebuilding? And then figuring out, okay, how can I be there for others while they walk their journey? Because that's all it is. Facilitation means to make it easier for others to do this work, whatever work that is. And in this case, it's the work of mindful forgiveness. Yeah, so if you're like, I'm ready to do this work, it doesn't feel easy, and I've been putting it off, or I'm doing some of it in therapy, but I could probably do it some more with others. This might be your place. So you're ready to practice, you're ready to eventually guide others. Don't let that be the blocker right now, because we're going to do all the work and I'm going to teach you all the skills. But we have to first figure out where we are, who we are, do we know ourselves, and can we get to know ourselves and get to like ourselves better so that we can live with a little bit more peace and joy and levity in our own lives, because that's what we want for our clients. That's what we want for the kids that we serve, right? This is what we want for our teams. So I'm asking you to come hang out with me and learn that. So the readiness is earned. So just because you decide to spend the 6 months, you might not be ready at the end. But in mindfulness, we practice without being tied to an outcome, because nobody has control over any of that. Our job is to show up, and our job is willingness. So if you're ready, please sign up. If you need more information, message me and let's schedule a one-on-one.